It's October 30th, the night before Halloween, and 12-year-old Marcus Thompson is standing in his front yard, staring at something that makes his heart break into 1,000 pieces. His decorations, the ones he spent 3 weeks building with his own hands. The giant papier-mâché pumpkins, the hand-painted skeleton family, the welcome trick-or-treaters banner his little sister made, all destroyed, ripped apart, stomped on, scattered across the lawn like garbage, and spray-painted across his family's fence in bright red letters, "Go back where you came from." Marcus's mother, Diana, stands behind him. Her hands are shaking, not from fear, from rage, from exhaustion, from years of trying to protect her children from this exact moment. Because this isn't random, she knows exactly who did this. Their neighbor. Richard Caldwell, the man who called the police on them for playing music too loud at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. The man who told Marcus to stay off his lawn when the boys' basketball rolled 2 feet onto his grass. The man who never once smiled at them in the 2 years they'd lived on Maple Street. But here's what nobody knew that night. Not Marcus. Not Diana. Not even Richard Caldwell himself. By the next morning, everything would change, because sometimes karma doesn't wait. Sometimes justice comes faster than anyone expects, and sometimes the person you hurt the most is the one person who could have saved you. What happened over the next 24 hours wasn't just about Halloween decorations. It was about a community coming together, a hidden truth being revealed, and a racist man learning the hardest lesson of his life. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The Thompson family moved to Maple Street in August. 2 years ago, Diana Thompson was a single mother, a nurse at Mercy General Hospital. She worked double shifts, sometimes triple, to afford the small 2-bedroom house in this quiet neighborhood. Her son Marcus was 12, smart, creative, the kind of kid who built things with his hands because he couldn't afford to buy them. He loved Halloween more than any other holiday. Not for the candy, for the creativity, for the chance to make something magical. Her daughter, 7-year-old Zoe, was shy, gentle, the kind of child who drew hearts on everything and believed everyone was good until proven otherwise. Maple Street was supposed to be their fresh start, a safe place. A good school district, a neighborhood where kids could ride bikes and play outside without worry. But from day one, Richard Caldwell made them feel unwelcome. Richard was 53, retired military, lived alone in the house next door. He kept his lawn perfect, his car spotless, his American flag flying high every single day, and he hated the Thompsons, not because they were loud. They weren't. Not because they were messy. Diana kept their small yard immaculate. He hated them because they were black. He never said it out loud. Not directly, but everyone on the street knew. They saw how he looked at them, how he found reasons to complain, how he'd turn his head when Diana said good morning. Most neighbors were kind. Mrs. Chen brought them cookies when they moved in. The Rodriguez family invited them to their daughter's quinceañera. Even old Mr. Peterson, who rarely left his house, waved at Marcus when he rode his bike past. But Richard made their lives difficult. He called code enforcement about their trash cans being out too early. He complained that their car was blocking his view, even though it was parked legally in their own driveway. He told the Homeowners Association that their Halloween decorations last year were excessive and lowering property values. Diana tried to ignore it. She taught her children to rise above hate, to respond with dignity, to never let anger make them smaller. When people treat you badly, she'd tell Marcus and Zoe, it says everything about them and nothing about you. But this year, something felt different. This year, Marcus had worked so hard, starting in early October. He'd saved every penny from mowing lawns, He'd used cardboard boxes from Diana's hospital, newspapers from Mr. Peterson, paint donated by Mrs. Chen. He'd spent every afternoon after school creating the most beautiful Halloween display Maple Street had ever seen, a family of skeletons having a tea party, giant pumpkins with faces that glowed from within, a spooky garden made of twisted branches and hanging ghosts, and a beautiful banner that Zoe had painted in her careful 7-year-old handwriting, "All trick-or-treaters welcome here." The neighborhood loved it. Kids walked by every day to see the progress. Parents took photos. Mrs. Chen called it a work of art. Even the mailman stopped to compliment Marcus. But Richard? Richard watched from his window, silent, angry, and on October 30th, while the Thompson family slept, he made his move. Diana got the call at 6:47 a.m. She was already awake, getting ready for her morning shift at the hospital. But when she heard Marcus scream from outside, she ran. What she saw made her stomach drop. Everything destroyed. The skeleton family crushed. Broken into pieces. The pumpkins kicked in, stomped flat. The spooky garden torn down, branches scattered everywhere. Zoe's banner ripped in half, lying in the gutter. And that message. Those words spray-painted on their fence in dripping red paint. "Go back where you came from." Marcus stood frozen. His face was blank. Not crying, just empty. That's what broke Diana's heart the most. Not anger, not tears. "Just defeat, Mom," he whispered. "Why would someone do this?" Diana wanted to lie. To say it was random, teenagers, a prank gone wrong. But she couldn't. He deserved the truth. "Because some people," she said quietly, pulling him close, "carry so much hate in their hearts that it spills out onto everyone around them." Zoe came outside in her pajamas. When she saw her banner torn apart, she started crying, not loud, just quiet tears streaming down her face. That's when Diana made a decision. She took photos. Every angle, every detail. The spray paint, the destruction, everything. Then she called the police. Officer Martinez arrived 30 minutes later. He was professional, kind. He took a report, photographed everything, asked if they had security cameras. They didn't. They couldn't afford them. "Do you have any idea who might have done this?" Martinez asked. Diana hesitated. She looked at Richard's house next door. His curtains moved. "Someone was watching." "I have suspicions," she said carefully. "But no proof," Martinez nodded. "Without cameras or witnesses, there's not much we can do." "I'm sorry. I'll file the report, but—" He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Diana understood. This was just another case, another report, another black family dealing with racism that couldn't be proven. After the officer left, the neighbors started coming out. Mrs. Chen arrived first. She hugged Diana without saying a word. Then she started helping clean up. The Rodriguez family came next. "This is horrible," Maria Rodriguez said, her voice shaking with anger. "Whoever did this, they don't represent this street." Mr. Peterson shuffled over with his cane. He looked at the destruction and shook his head. "I've lived here 40 years, he said. "Never seen anything this cruel." More neighbors came. The Johnsons, the Patels, the Williams family, even people from the next street over who'd heard what happened. They brought trash bags, cleaning supplies, offers to repaint the fence, and they brought something else, decorations. Within 2 hours, Maple Street transformed. Every single house put up Halloween decorations. Not just their usual stuff, extra decorations. Big ones, elaborate ones. Some people went to stores that morning and bought more. By noon, Maple Street looked like Halloween exploded, and every single house had a banner or sign, "All are welcome here." Marcus stood in his yard watching. For the first time that day, he smiled. A small smile, but real. "Mom," he said, "look what they did. Diana couldn't speak. Tears ran down her face. Not sad tears, grateful ones, because in the face of hate, her community chose love. But here's what nobody noticed. Richard Caldwell's house stayed dark. No decorations, no lights. His curtain stayed closed all day, and that night, something happened that would change everything. October 31st, Halloween morning. Diana woke up at 5 a.m. for her hospital shift. She was exhausted, emotionally drained. But work didn't stop for heartbreak. She checked on Marcus and Zoe, both still sleeping. Marcus's friend's mom would take them trick-or-treating that night while Diana worked. As she backed out of her driveway, she glanced at Richard's house. His car was gone. Unusual for 5 a.m., but she didn't think much of it. She arrived at Mercy General at 5:45 a.m. The emergency room was already busy. A car accident. 2 heart attack patients. A child with a severe allergic reaction. Diana put on her scrubs, tied back her hair, and got to work. At 7:23 a.m., the ambulance call came in. 50-year-old male. Possible heart attack. Unresponsive. ETA 4 minutes. Diana and Dr. Patel prepared the trauma bay. IV lines ready. Defibrillator charged. Crash cart in position. When the ambulance doors burst open, Diana's world stopped. On the stretcher, pale and barely breathing, was Richard Caldwell, her neighbor. The man who destroyed her son's decorations. The man who'd made their lives miserable for 2 years. For 1 second, one tiny human second, Diana felt nothing. No sympathy. No urgency. Just the memory of Marcus's broken face that morning. Dr. Patel barked orders. "Let's move!" "Diana, I need vitals now." And just like that, her training kicked in, because Diana Thompson was a nurse, and nurses don't choose who deserves saving. She worked fast. Blood pressure dangerously low. Heart rate erratic. "Oxygen critical! He's coding!" Dr. Patel shouted. "Start compressions!" Diana's hands moved automatically. Chest compressions. Hard and fast. 1, 2, 3. Counting out loud. She looked down at Richard's face. Eyes closed. Skin gray. This man who hated her. Who hurt her children. Who wanted her gone. And she fought to save his life. 30 compressions. Dr. Patel gave rescue breaths. They shocked him once, twice, nothing. "Again!" Dr. Patel ordered. Diana kept going. Her arms burned. Sweat dripped down her face. But she didn't stop. On the 3rd shock, Richard's heart started beating. Weak, irregular, but beating. "We got him," Dr. Patel said, breathless. "Good work, Diana." They stabilized him. Got him to the ICU. He'd need surgery, but he'd survive. Diana stepped outside the trauma bay. Her hands were shaking, not from the adrenaline rush, from the weight of what just happened. She saved him, the man who tried to break her family. She saved his life. Dr. Patel found her in the hallway. "You okay?" Diana nodded, then shook her head. "That was my neighbor, the one who vandalized our house yesterday." Dr. Patel's eyes widened. "The Halloween decorations?" "That was him?" "I can't prove it, but yes. I know it was him." Silence. "Diana," Dr. Patel said softly, "if you need to step away from this case, I understand." "I can assign—" "No," Diana said firmly. "I'll do my job." Because that's who she was. But here's what Diana didn't know yet. Richard Caldwell had collapsed in his garage that morning. Alone. His phone was inside the house. He couldn't reach it. He'd been lying there for almost 2 hours before his other neighbor, Mrs. Chen, heard strange sounds and called 911. 2 hours. Alone. Dying. If the ambulance had arrived even 10 minutes later, he wouldn't have made it, and the nurse who saved him, the one whose hands brought him back from death, was the woman he'd tried to destroy. Richard Caldwell woke up at 2:37 p.m., confused, disoriented, hospital room. Tubes everywhere, machines beeping. A nurse he didn't recognize was checking his IV, not Diana. She'd finished her shift and left. Where am I? His voice was rough, painful. Mercy General Hospital, the nurse said. You had a heart attack. You're stable now, but you'll need surgery. How did I get here? Ambulance brought you in this morning. You collapsed in your garage. You're very lucky. If the team hadn't worked so fast, you wouldn't be here. Lucky. That word felt strange. Richard closed his eyes. Memories came back in pieces. The pain in his chest, falling, the cold garage floor. Thinking he was going to die alone, the nurse left. Richard stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Not of dying. Of what came after. He thought about his life. Retired military, divorced, no kids, no close friends. Just a perfect lawn and a lot of anger. When had he become this person? He didn't used to be this way. There was a time when he laughed, when he helped neighbors, when he wasn't so bitter. But somewhere along the way, he'd let hate grow inside him, fertilized it with fear, watered it with resentment, and now he was alone in a hospital bed. Nobody to call. Nobody who cared. That evening, Dr. Patel came in. Mr. Caldwell, I'm Dr. Patel. I treated you this morning. How are you feeling? Like garbage, Richard muttered. Dr. Patel smiled slightly. That's normal. You had a severe myocardial infarction, a major heart attack. We'll need to do surgery tomorrow to place stents in your arteries. Okay. I also want you to know, the nurse who performed CPR on you, who brought you back, she saved your life. Without her quick action, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Richard nodded. Can I thank her? Dr. Patel paused. Her name is Diana Thompson. The name hit Richard like another heart attack. Diana. Thompson, his neighbor. The woman whose fence he spray-painted. Whose son's decorations he destroyed. The black woman he'd tried to drive away. She saved his life. Richard couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The machine started beeping faster. Mr. Caldwell, you need to stay calm, Dr. Patel said firmly. She saved me? Yes, she performed CPR for several minutes. She's one of our best nurses. Dr. Patel left. Richard lay there staring at nothing. His mind spun. She had every reason to let him die. To walk away. To say she didn't recognize him. Nobody would have blamed her, but she didn't. She saved him anyway. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. Not because of pain, because of guilt. What had he done? What kind of man destroys a child's Halloween decorations? What kind of man sprays hate on a fence? What kind of man becomes this? He thought about Marcus. That kid who worked so hard, who created something beautiful, who never bothered anyone. He thought about Diana. A single mother working double shifts, taking care of her community, saving lives, even his. At 3 a.m., Richard made a decision. When he got out of this hospital, things would change. November 2nd, Richard Caldwell was released from the hospital. Surgery successful, stents placed. He'd need cardiac rehabilitation and lifestyle changes, but he'd live. Mrs. Chen picked him up. She was the only person who'd visited. Brought him soup. Sat with him when he was scared before surgery. Thank you, Richard said quietly as they drove home. Everyone needs someone, Mrs. Chen replied. Even grumpy neighbors, she smiled. He almost did too. When they pulled onto Maple Street, Richard saw it. Every house still had decorations up. Extra decorations. All our welcome signs everywhere, and his house? Dark, empty, alone, just like him. Mrs. Chen helped him inside. Made sure he had his medications. Call if you need anything, she said. After she left, Richard sat in his living room. He looked around. Everything clean, organized, perfect, and completely hollow. He thought about what Dr. Patel told him. Diana saved his life. He owed her more than gratitude. He owed her the truth. That evening, as the sun set, Richard did something he hadn't done in years. He walked next door. His legs were weak. His chest hurt. But he kept going. He rang the Thompsons' doorbell. Marcus answered. When he saw Richard, his face went cold. "Mom!" he called. "It's him!" Diana came to the door. When she saw Richard, her expression didn't change. Professional. Guarded. "Mr. Caldwell, you're out of the hospital." "Yes, thanks to you." His voice shook. Can I talk to you, please?" Diana hesitated. Every instinct told her to close the door, to protect her children from this man. But she saw something different in his eyes. Not anger, not hate, shame. "Marcus, Zoe, go to your rooms," she said softly. "But Mom..." "Now, baby." They left reluctantly. Diana stepped outside, closing the door behind her. She crossed her arms. "What do you want?" Richard took a deep breath. This was harder than anything he'd ever done. "I need to tell you the truth. I destroyed your decorations. I spray-painted your fence. It was me." Diana said nothing. She already knew. "And I need you to know," Richard continued, "that I am deeply, truly sorry. What I did was cruel, hateful, unforgivable." "You're right," Diana said coldly. "It was unforgivable, I know. But I'm going to try to earn your forgiveness anyway, because you saved my life when you had every reason not to, when I'd done everything possible to hurt you and your family. You saved me anyway." Tears ran down his face. Real tears. Not manipulation. Just raw, honest shame. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you save me?" Diana was quiet for a long moment. "Because," she finally said, "I'm not you. I don't let hate decide who deserves help. I don't let anger choose who lives or dies. That's not who I am. That's not who I'll ever be." Richard nodded. "I understand. And I know saying sorry isn't enough, so I'm going to show you how. However long it takes. However you need me to. I'll repaint your fence. I'll replace every decoration I destroyed. I'll tell the police it was me. I'll do whatever makes this right." Diana studied him, looking for lies, for manipulation. She found none. "Mr. Caldwell," she said slowly, "you didn't just destroy decorations. You tried to destroy my children's sense of safety, their belief that they belong here. That's not something you can fix with paint and new pumpkins, I know. My son barely slept for 3 days. My daughter cried herself to sleep. Because of you. Because your hate was louder than your humanity." Richard closed his eyes. "I know, and I hate myself for it." "Good," Diana said sharply. "You should." Silence. "But," she continued softer now, "my children are also watching how I respond to you. And I won't teach them that hate is the answer, even when hate comes first." She took a deep breath. "You can repaint the fence. You can apologize to Marcus and Zoe, if they want to hear it. And you can start treating us like human beings, like neighbors, like people who deserve respect. I will. I promise. And Mr. Caldwell, if you ever do anything like this again to us or to anyone else on this street, I won't be so forgiving. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." Diana turned to go inside, then stopped. "One more thing. I didn't save you because you deserved it. I saved you because saving people is who I am. Don't waste the second chance you've been given." She went inside. Richard stood there, alone on the porch, but for the first time in years. He didn't feel empty, he felt something else. Hope. So what does this story mean? Why does it matter? Let's talk about it. First, let's address the obvious. Richard Caldwell was racist. He was cruel. He hurt a family because of the color of their skin. That's not up for debate. That's not something we excuse or explain away. But here's what makes this story important. It's about what happens after the hate. See, most stories about racism end one of two ways. Either the racist person gets punished and faces consequences, or the victims rise above and move on. But real life isn't always that clean. Sometimes the racist person has a heart attack. Sometimes the person they hurt is the one who saves their life. Sometimes redemption is possible, not guaranteed, not deserved, not automatic, but possible. And that's complicated. Diana Thompson didn't have to save Richard Caldwell. Legally, ethically, as a nurse, yes. But emotionally, spiritually, she could have asked someone else to take over. She could have stepped back. Nobody would have judged her, but she didn't, because Diana understood something that Richard didn't. Her humanity wasn't dependent on his. Her goodness wasn't defined by his badness. Her love wasn't limited by his hate. That's power. That's strength. That's what it means to rise above. Now, some people might say, but Diana was too forgiving. Richard destroyed her kids' decorations. He spray-painted hate on her fence. Why should she give him any grace? That's a fair question, and here's the answer. Diana didn't forgive Richard for him. She forgave him for herself, and for her children, because holding on to hate, even justified hate, is heavy. It's exhausting. It changes you. Diana had already spent 2 years dealing with Richard's racism. 2 years of complaints, police calls, hostility. If she let that turn her bitter, if she let his hate infect her heart, then he won. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because she deserved peace. That's the difference between responding and reacting. Reacting is emotional, immediate. It feels good in the moment. Responding is intentional, thoughtful. It creates the future you want, Diana responded, and her children saw that. They learned that strength isn't about revenge. It's about character. They learned that dignity isn't about how others treat you. It's about how you treat others. They learned that humanity is a choice, and you make that choice every single day. Now let's talk about Richard. He was wrong, deeply wrong, but he was also human, broken, bitter, alone. His racism didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of fear, isolation, and resentment that he never dealt with. That doesn't excuse it. Nothing excuses it. But it explains it, and explanation is the first step to change. When Richard woke up in that hospital and learned Diana saved him, something cracked inside him, not because he suddenly wasn't racist anymore. Racism doesn't disappear like that. But because he realized something, his hate almost killed him. And the person he hated saved him. That's cognitive dissonance. The uncomfortable feeling when your beliefs don't match reality. Richard believed Diana and her family were lesser, not as valuable, not as worthy. But Diana proved him wrong in the most undeniable way possible. She valued his life, even when he didn't value hers. That kind of contradiction? It forces people to choose, either double down on the hate and reject the reality, or face the truth and change. Richard chose change. Not because he deserved redemption. Not because he earned forgiveness. But because Diana's humanity gave him a mirror to see his own inhumanity, and he didn't like what he saw. That's the power of moral courage. Diana didn't fight Richard with hate. She fought him with humanity, and humanity won. Now, let's talk about the community, because this isn't just a story about Diana and Richard. It's a story about Maple Street. When Marcus's decorations were destroyed, the neighbors didn't just feel bad. They acted. They covered the entire street in Halloween decorations. They put up all our welcome signs. They showed up with cleaning supplies and support. That's solidarity. That's what community looks like. See, racism doesn't just hurt the people it targets. It damages everyone. When one family feels unsafe, the entire neighborhood is less safe. When one child's joy is destroyed, all children lose something. When hate is allowed to fester, it spreads like poison. But when people stand up, not with violence, not with anger, but with visible, undeniable solidarity, hate loses its power. The decorations on Maple Street weren't just decorations, they were statements. We see you. We stand with you. You belong here. And that matters because racism thrives in silence, in isolation, in the belief that it's not my problem. But when neighbors refuse to be silent, when they refuse to look away, when they make it clear that hate is not welcome, that changes everything. Now, some people might watch this story and think, this is unrealistic. Real racists don't change. Real victims shouldn't have to forgive. And you know what? Sometimes that's true. Not every Richard Caldwell has a heart attack and a revelation. Not every Diana Thompson has the strength to save someone who hurt them. Not every community comes together, like Maple Street did, but some do, and those stories matter because they show us what's possible. They remind us that people can change, that forgiveness is powerful, that community matters. They give us hope, not naive hope. Not everything will be fine if we just love each other hope, but real, hard-earned, fought-for hope, the kind of hope that says, yes, the world is broken. Yes, racism is real. Yes, people can be cruel, but goodness is real too, and sometimes, against all odds, goodness wins. 3 weeks after Halloween, something happened on Maple Street. It was a Saturday morning. Cold. November wind blowing leaves across lawns. Marcus was in the garage working on a school project when he heard voices. Outside, he looked out and saw Richard Caldwell, and a truck, and several other people. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. What now? He walked outside. Richard saw him and stopped. Marcus, hi, is your mom home? She's at work. Oh, okay, well, we're here to fix the fence, and I brought something for you. Richard gestured to the truck. Inside were boxes, decorations, supplies. I can't replace what I destroyed, Richard said quietly. Those decorations were yours, handmade, special, but I thought maybe we could build new ones, together, for next year. Marcus stared, confused, suspicious. Why? Because I owe you more than an apology. I owe you amends. And I owe you the truth about who I was and who I'm trying to become. Mr. Peterson was there, and Mrs. Chen, and the Rodriguez family. We're here to help, too, Mrs. Chen said gently. We thought it would be nice to make this a community project. Marcus looked at all of them, then back at Richard. You really did it, didn't you? You destroyed everything. Yes, I did, and I'm ashamed of it every single day. My mom says you almost died, that she saved you. She did. Your mother is a hero, and I was a coward. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, thinking, processing. Finally, he said, I don't forgive you yet. I'm not ready. I understand, but I believe in second chances. My mom taught me that. So if you're serious about changing, I'll give you a chance to prove it. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. Yeah, Marcus said. It is, but he said it without hate. Just honesty. Over the next 4 hours, they worked together. They repainted the fence. Not just covering the spray paint, but adding something new, a mural. Designed by Zoe, painted by everyone, it showed houses, different colors, different styles, all connected by a rainbow path and words, our street, our community, all welcome. While they painted, Richard told Marcus about his life, about his military service, his divorce, how he'd let bitterness replace joy. I'm not making excuses, Richard said. I made choices, bad ones, and those choices hurt you and your family. But I'm telling you this so you understand. Hate doesn't come from nowhere. It grows when you feed it, when you water it with fear and loneliness. So what changed? Marcus asked. Your mother. She showed me that I'd become someone I didn't recognize, someone I didn't want to be, and she gave me a chance to be different. She's good at that, Marcus said. Seeing good in people even when they don't see it themselves? She is. You're lucky to have her. I know. They worked in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, "You know what hurt the most? It wasn't the broken decorations. It was knowing that someone hated me just because of what I look like. That no matter what I did, how hard I worked, how kind I was, you'd still see me as less than." Richard stopped painting. "You're right. And I'm sorry. You deserved better. You deserve better." "Everyone does," Marcus said simply. When Diana came home from her shift that evening, she found something unexpected. Her fence was beautiful, repainted, a mural of community and inclusion. Her yard was full of people, neighbors laughing, working together, building something, and her son was smiling, really smiling, working alongside the man who'd tried to break him. She stood there, car keys in hand, just watching. Mrs. Chen walked over. "Diana, come see." They showed her everything. The decorations, the plans for next Halloween, the community project they'd started. "Marcus designed it," Richard said, approaching carefully. "He's incredibly talented. We're going to make Maple Street the most welcoming Halloween street in the entire city." Diana looked at her son. "You okay with this?" Marcus nodded. "I think so. It feels right. Like something good coming from something bad." Diana turned to Richard. "And you? Are you doing this because you feel guilty? Or because you actually changed?" "Both," Richard admitted. "The guilt will probably never go away. Nor should it. But yes, I've changed. Or at least I'm trying to. Every day." "Good," Diana said. "Because change isn't a moment. It's a practice. And I'll be watching. I know, and I'm grateful for that." That night, after everyone left, Diana sat with Marcus and Zoe. "How do you feel about everything?" she asked. Zoe spoke first. "I like the mural. It's pretty, and Mr. Caldwell said sorry to me. He cried. Marcus was more thoughtful. I don't know if I trust him yet, but I think people can change. You taught us that. And if we don't give people a chance to prove they've changed, then what's the point?" Diana pulled them both close. "You two are wiser than most adults I know." "We learned from you," Marcus said. "And that right there, that's the whole point of this story. See, this isn't really a story about Halloween decorations. It's not even about racism and redemption. It's about the choice we make every single day. Who do we want to be? When someone hurts us, do we respond with more hurt? Or with humanity? When someone shows hate, do we give them more hate? Or do we show them something different? When the world tells us we don't belong, do we shrink? Or do we stand taller? Diana Thompson chose humanity, even when it was hard, even when it hurt, even when she had every right to walk away. Marcus Thompson chose hope. Even after his joy was destroyed, even when trust felt impossible, the neighbors on Maple Street chose solidarity. They didn't just watch injustice happen. They acted. And Richard Caldwell? He chose change. Not because it was easy, not because he was forgiven, but because he finally saw himself clearly and didn't like what he saw. That's the lesson here. Change is possible, but it requires three things. First, it requires the person doing harm to take responsibility. Real responsibility, not excuses. Not, "But I was raised this way," or "I didn't mean it." Just honest accountability. Richard admitted what he did. He faced the shame. He stopped hiding behind justifications. Second, it requires action. Sustained, consistent action. Saying sorry is just words. Richard showed up. He worked. He listened. He proved his change wasn't temporary emotion, but lasting commitment. Third, it requires community. Diana couldn't heal this alone. Marcus couldn't forgive in isolation. The change on Maple Street happened because everyone participated. That's what makes this story so powerful. It reminds us that we're not alone in fighting injustice. We're not alone in demanding better. We're not alone in believing people can change. Now, I know some of you watching this might think, this is a nice story, but it's not realistic. Most racists don't change. Most victims don't forgive. Most communities don't come together. And you're not entirely wrong. Change is rare. Forgiveness is hard. Solidarity requires courage. But rare doesn't mean impossible. Hard doesn't mean not worth it. And courage? Courage is exactly what Diana Thompson showed us. The courage to save a life, even when that life belonged to someone who hurt her. The courage to give grace, even when grace wasn't earned. The courage to teach her children that their humanity isn't determined by other people's hate. That's the kind of courage that changes the world, not in big dramatic moments, but in small, consistent choices. The choice to help when you could walk away. The choice to speak up when silence is easier. The choice to see someone's humanity even when they've forgotten their own. Let me tell you what happened next on Maple Street. Because the story doesn't end on that Saturday in November. December came, then January, then spring. Richard Caldwell kept his promise. He helped shovel Diana's driveway when it snowed. Without being asked, he apologized to every neighbor he'd been rude to over the years. He joined the community association, not to complain, but to contribute. He volunteered at the local food bank, started attending community events, made friends. He became a different person. Not overnight, slowly, with setbacks, with moments of old patterns creeping back, but he kept trying. And Marcus forgave him. Not immediately, not all at once, but over time, as Richard proved his change was real, Marcus let go of the hurt. Not because Richard deserved it, but because Marcus deserved peace. By the time Halloween came around again, something beautiful had happened. Maple Street had become famous. Local news covered it. Social media shared it. People drove from other neighborhoods just to see it. Because it wasn't just the best decorated Halloween street anymore. It was a symbol of something bigger, a symbol of what happens when hate meets love and love refuses to blink, a symbol of community overcoming. Division. A symbol of second chances and human dignity. On October 31st, 1 year after the destruction, Marcus stood in his front yard. His new decorations were even more beautiful than the first ones. But this time he hadn't built them alone. Richard helped. Mrs. Chen helped. The Rodriguez family, the Patels, Mr. Peterson, everyone. And at the center of it all was a sign. Big, bright, impossible to miss. Maple Street, where everyone belongs. Designed by Marcus. Built by Richard. Painted by Zoe. Supported by every single neighbor. That night, as hundreds of trick-or-treaters walked down Maple Street, Diana stood on her porch watching. Richard walked over. He'd become a regular at their house. Not a close friend. Some wounds take longer to heal. But a neighbor. A real one. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not giving up on me when I'd given up on myself. For showing me that who I was didn't have to be who I am. Diana smiled. You did the work, Richard. I just held up a mirror. Still, I'll never forget what you did, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it. You don't have to deserve kindness, Diana said. You just have to pass it on, and he did. Over the years that followed, Richard Caldwell became one of the most active community members on Maple Street. He mentored kids. He supported local charities. He spoke at community events about his journey from hate to healing. He told his story, the ugly parts too, because he learned that real change requires honesty, and every time he shared, he made sure to say, I was wrong. I was hateful, and I'm proof that people can change, but only if we're willing to do the hard work, and if we're given the grace to try. Some people forgave him. Some didn't. Both were valid, because forgiveness is personal. It's not required. It's not automatic, but possibility? Possibility is universal. The possibility that today can be different than yesterday. The possibility that who we are can evolve, the possibility that even the deepest wounds can heal if we're willing to tend them. So what's the moral of this story? Is it forgive everyone who hurts you? No. Is it all racists can change if we're just nice to them? Absolutely not. Is it victims should sacrifice for their oppressors? Never. The moral is this: your humanity is yours. No one can take it. No one can define it. No one can limit it. Diana Thompson's humanity didn't belong to Richard Caldwell. It belonged to her. So when she chose to save his life, she wasn't doing it for him. She was doing it for herself, for her children, for the world she wanted to live in. She was saying, I refuse to let your hate make me hateful. I refuse to let your cruelty make me cruel. I refuse to let your smallness make me small. That's power, real power, not the power to hurt. Anyone can hurt, but the power to heal, the power to rise, the power to transform pain into purpose. That's what makes this story about more than Halloween decorations. It's about dignity, about choice, about the kind of world we build with our daily actions every time we choose grace over grudges, every time we choose community over isolation, every time we choose hope over despair. We're building that world, not perfectly, not quickly, not without pain, but we're building it. And stories like Diana and Marcus and Maple Street remind us why it matters, because sometimes the hardest stories, the ones about hate and hurt and healing, are the ones that change us most. They remind us what we're capable of, the worst of us and the best of us. They show us that evil is real. But so is goodness. That pain is inevitable. But bitterness is optional. That people can break us, but they can't stop us from choosing who we become after the breaking. Before we finish, I want you to think about something. Where are you in this story? Are you Diana, carrying the weight of other people's hate but refusing to let it change your heart? Are you Marcus, trying to hold on to joy even when people try to destroy it? Are you Richard, realizing you've become someone you don't want to be and looking for a way back? Are you the neighbors, witnessing injustice and deciding whether to act or look away? Or are you watching from a distance, wondering if any of this really matters? Here's what I want you to know. It all matters. Every choice, every action, every moment of kindness or cruelty, it all matters. You might not be saving someone's life like Diana did, but you can choose to see people's humanity even when they forget their own. You might not be building Halloween decorations like Marcus, but you can choose to create beauty and joy even when others try to destroy it. You might not be on a redemption journey like Richard, but you can choose to face your mistakes and grow from them. You might not be decorating your whole street like Maple Street did, but you can choose solidarity over silence, because that's how change happens, not in one big moment, but in a million small ones, in hospital rooms and front yards and community meetings and everyday conversations, in the choice to help instead of hurt, in the choice to speak instead of stay silent, in the choice to believe that people and communities and the world can be better than they are right now. That's the real story of Maple Street. Not that a racist man changed, not that a black woman forgave, but that a community decided that hate would not be the loudest voice on their street, that children learned they belonged, that neighbors learned they mattered, that everyone learned that the world we want doesn't just happen. We build it together, one choice at a time. It's been 3 years now since that Halloween. Marcus is 15. He's designing decorations for other neighborhoods now, teaching younger kids how to create their own displays. Zoe is 10. She paints murals all over the city. Her art has become her voice. Diana still works at Mercy General, still saves lives, still teaches her children that strength isn't about never falling. It's about always getting back up. And Richard? Richard is 56 now. His hair is grayer. His heart is healthier. His soul is lighter. Every Halloween, he sits on his porch and hands out candy to every single trick-or-treater. Every single one. And when parents ask him about the famous Maple Street decorations, he tells them the story, not to make himself look good, but to remind people what's possible. 3 years ago, he says, I was the worst version of myself. I let hate poison my heart. I hurt good people for no reason except ignorance and fear. But the woman I hurt most, she saved my life. And her son, he gave me a second chance. And this community, they showed me what belonging really means. So if you learn anything from Maple Street, learn this. We all have the power to choose who we are. Every single day. And it's never too late to choose differently. Kids don't always understand, but their parents do. And slowly, year by year, the message spreads. Maple Street becomes more than a street. It becomes an idea, the idea that community matters, that grace is powerful, that change is possible. And every Halloween, thousands of people visit, not just to see decorations, but to feel something, hope, belonging, possibility, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, the world can be better than it is, that maybe we can be better than we are, that maybe the hate we carry doesn't have to define us, that maybe the pain we've experienced doesn't have to be the end of the story, that maybe, just maybe, there's still time to choose differently, to love harder, to forgive deeper, to stand taller, to build stronger, because that's what Maple Street taught us. Not that everything will be okay, but that we have the power to make things better. Not alone, together. Not perfectly, but persistently. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. So tonight, as you think about this story, I want you to ask yourself one question. What will you build? Will you build walls or bridges? Will you build resentment or reconciliation? Will you build isolation or community? The choice is yours, just like it was Diana's. Choice to save Richard, just like it was Marcus's. Choice to give a second chance, just like it was Maple Street's choice to stand together, just like it was Richard's choice to change. Your choice matters. Your voice matters. Your humanity matters, and the world you want, it starts with the choices you make today. So choose wisely, choose kindly, choose courageously, choose to be the person who makes the world a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little bit more full of love. Because sometimes, the hardest stories are the ones that heal us all. And this story of Halloween decorations and hospital rooms, of hate and healing, of breaking and building, this is one of those stories, not because it's easy to hear, but because it's necessary to remember that we are all human. We all make mistakes. We all have the capacity for both cruelty and kindness, and we all get to choose every single day which one will feed. So as you go forward from this moment, carry Maple Street with you, carry Diana's courage, carry Marcus's hope, carry the neighbor's solidarity, and yes, even carry Richard's redemption, because all of it matters. All of it teaches us something about who we are and who we can become. And in a world that often feels too dark, too divided, too broken to fix, stories like this remind us of a simple truth. Light still exists, love still wins. And humanity, real, messy, beautiful humanity, still has the power to change everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring about stories that matter. And remember, you don't have to wait for Halloween to choose kindness. You can choose it right now, today, in this moment. For yourself, for your community, for the world. Because that's how change happens. One choice at a time. One person at a time. One story at a time. Until the whole world looks a little more like Maple Street. Where everyone belongs, where everyone matters, where everyone has a Chance to be better than they were yesterday. That's the world worth building, and it starts with you.